We have a few things to talk about today. No tuition for illegals in the state of Texas. That has been ended thanks to the Trump administration, at least for now. Bail reform has been signed into law by Governor Greg Abbott. We definitely need that here in the state because it was getting out of control with people getting out on bail and committing more violent crimes. Also, there is a problem here in the state with teachers sleeping with students. That is a big problem, and I remember that happening when I was in high school. Crazy stuff. Also, a major arrest in Dallas, operation, I should say, of almost 100 people, and hopefully they will be locked up for a long time. But it's a start. All right, let's get started with this illegal alien tuition situation here in the state.
The Justice Department and the state of Texas reached a settlement for the state to stop providing in-state tuition for undocumented students. Good evening, I'm Steve Eager.
I'm Heather Hayes. The program has been a state law since 2001. At the time, it received bipartisan support in the Republican-controlled state legislature. Fox 4 Stephen Dial live to explain who's impacted and why it's changing now.
The Texas DREAM Act has been on the books for nearly 25 years. What's changed has been a greater focus on repealing laws that provide support for undocumented students. Since 2001, the Texas DREAM Act has provided access to in-state tuition for thousands of undocumented migrant students at Texas colleges and universities. But in another sign of the changing political climate towards illegal immigrants, the Justice Department and the Texas Attorney General are trying to shut the program down. Hours after the DOJ sued Texas, Attorney General Ken Paxton sided with the Trump administration, calling the law discriminatory and un-American. The Texas DREAM Act was signed into law by Republican Governor Rick Perry with bipartisan support in the state legislature.
Only 3 Republican senators voted against this, and only 2 Republican House members voted against this. There is a Republican consensus in favor of the Texas DREAM Act.
Well before DACA provided federal protections to undocumented children, Texas was the first state to create this type of tuition program for them. Now, more than a dozen states do this.
Ridiculous. Rick Perry is responsible for this.
The same thing.
How many undocumented students are in Texas public universities or Texas universities?
A little bit less than 20,000 undocumented students. How we identify them, or how they are identified as affidavit students.
Those affidavits are a key part of the program, according to the nonpartisan nonprofit group Every Texan. The group looked at data from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board.
They have to sign an affidavit saying that while they might be undocumented now, at their earliest possibility that's available to them within the law, they will then go and seek to become a legal permanent resident.
Under the Texas DREAM Act, students also have to live in Texas 3 years before graduating from high school. The state has not said if the changes happen immediately, impacting students starting summer courses or the fall semester. And despite multiple Republican attempts to repeal the law, those efforts never made it to a full vote in the Texas legislature.
Is this a broad enough impact to get a law reversed like this? Or is it, in your opinion, just kind of catering to the base with this climate?
I think a lot will depend.
You know, he really wanted to say catering to the MAGA base.
On the debate in the judicial system between the Trump administration's argument that Texas cannot provide benefits to undocumented immigrants, that it doesn't apply to all U.S. citizens.
And to provide some context, we were talking about in-state tuition. Undocumented students who are in the country illegally are not eligible for federal student aid, so they do not fill out a FAFSA.
All right, so I want to play this from Cambry over at Texas Scorecard. She does great work. Let me get to this page real quick.
Trump's DOJ has forced Texas to end in-state tuition for illegal aliens. Yep, Trump administration's DOJ stepped in and did Texas' job for us. Just days after the session ended, the Department of Justice filed a federal lawsuit against the state of Texas, challenging the longstanding law that gives illegal aliens discounted tuition while U.S. citizens from other states pay more. AG Ken Paxton settled the lawsuit, immediately agreeing that the policy violates federal law and must be stopped. This law has been in place since 2001. Yes, since Rick Perry called people heartless for opposing it. Unbelievable. Senator Mays Middleton filed the bill to end this year, but Republican leadership let it die without a vote. So now it took President Trump's DOJ to do what Texas Republicans refused to do. And frankly, if it takes Washington to clean up your mess, maybe don't run around calling yourselves the tip of the spear. Just saying.
Sorry, I'm reading the comment here. She fine as frog hair. Slow down. We don't need your fine ass hyperventilating. You know, Miss Cambry is very good at these 1 minute clips. You know, I mean, she's not a bad looking woman. Somebody in the comments, one of her videos, accused her of having Botox. I mean, I don't know, but is she nice to look at? Yeah, she is. Miss Cambry does great work though, so give her a follow. Check her if you wanted to, you know, if you want to see more than her videos, then you know, if you want to look at her for more than just that, I say then give her a follow on X and check out her video. She does great work though. So yeah. All right, so I will go. And the thing about Governor Abbott being a World Economic Forum stooge, I don't know. I know they had him on the website. I don't know how much that really means. They could put anybody up there. Look, Abbott has done some good things. He's done some things that are not so popular as well. I did vote against him in the primaries in 2021. Going to the 2022 election, I voted for Allen West. I thought he would have been tougher, but you know, Abbott won overwhelmingly. He won like by 2/3 of the vote, and then he clobbered Beto in the general. So, but he's done some good things and some things not so good. I give credit where credit is due. And we move on to crime here in the state. Bail reform and Dallas arresting nearly 100 people in a major crackdown. Let's check this out.
Good evening. I'm Clarice Tinsley. The new Dallas police chief says his first crackdown on violent repeat offenders was a success. It's called Operation Justice Trail. Fox 4's Alex Boyer is live with results. Alex.
Hey, Clarice, you know, the chief says that his first major operation since joining the police department just 5 weeks ago, as you mentioned, was a big success. He says his priority is really getting those repeat violent offenders off city streets, and he says that the results show that it's a big step in the right direction.
When I came in, it was like, we have to do this. We must do it. We're going to do it right now.
Dallas Police Chief Daniel Como appears to be well past his honeymoon phase. At a news conference Thursday, Como touted the results of his first big initiative as chief, Operation Justice Trail.
The goal was to identify and find all felons that were walking around on the streets of Dallas.
The initiative builds off the groundwork laid by former Chief Eddie Garcia's Violent Crime Reduction Plan. Over the month of May, law enforcement officers arrested 98 violent felons. 3 have ICE holds. Como says those arrested were responsible for 700 past crimes.
So we got the team together and we said, who do we?
98 people responsible for 700 crimes. This is what Rudy Giuliani talked about when he was mayor of New York City. Let me read the comments 1 second. Yeah. You know, that's a good point. You know, they want illegals in the blue states because Democrats I'm talking about, they want more congressional seats. Even if these people could never vote, if they can never vote, at least they'll get more congressional seats. So that is one way to never lose an election. If you just flood the blue states with, if you just flood the blue states with illegal aliens, like I said, they don't even have to vote, but you just gain electoral votes that way, or congressional seats, I'd say. But that was, I mean, as far as putting the pressure on them to bring attention to the issue, I think it was huge. I think Governor Abbott did a great job. Ron DeSantis too, when he sent all those people, the illegal aliens, to Martha's Vineyard, and they freaked out. Martha's Vineyard is full of liberals, and then they deported them out of Martha's Vineyard like 24 hours later. They didn't even want them there. So Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis did a great job on that. I think that was hugely instrumental in getting Trump reelected because it brought the problem to the blue states and put it on their doorsteps. So let's keep going with this arrest in Dallas.
We need to make sure we get off the street first. And we put a list together and we started going down the list.
Pictures of some of those arrested were put on display at DPD headquarters, as well as some of the most violent offenders still wanted. The operation was led by Assistant Chief Katrina Shedd.
Our message is clear. We're putting violent felons on notice. If you're wanted, turn yourself in.
Shedd said 163 warrants were cleared. Arrests included violent crimes such as capital murder, aggravated robbery, aggravated assault, sexual offenses, and a range of narcotics and weapons violations. Como said a combination of good police work and the use of the city's camera system led to the arrests.
One of the great things about Dallas, we can see you. We're watching you.
Dallas County District Attorney John Creuzot said he knows some of the felons could bond out of jail, but vows to do what he can to keep them there.
But at the end of the day, the court sets the bond and the court decides what to do if there's a bond violation. There's new law coming on board that will help us, subject to a constitutional amendment vote, but it'll help us get refocused back to judges, and it'll also give the judges probably few more guidelines to set more appropriate bonds, and we'll have the right to appeal and some other things.
And the chief could not say how many other violent felons are out there that they are currently looking for, but did add that this operation will continue through the summer months. They're also asking that anybody who knows of a wanted felon out there, please contact Dallas Police. But if you are afraid and rather stay anonymous, you can always report it through the iWatch Dallas app or Crime Stoppers.
All right, so that is Dallas. Talk about Houston for a little bit. We read the comments here. Hello, Joseph. Liberal awareness of the problem of illegals has been raised, but the true end result will be more democratic control. Okay, so there could be two problems with that. Yeah, I see your point, but I'm just glad that we got a lot of them out of Texas. But I do see your point there with that. It could result in more democratic control in the blue states, tightening up the grip on their power there. So we'll see what happens, but arrests are up. ICE arrests are up over 2,000 a day now. The last number I saw was 2,368. So we'll see what happens. I think we could see, if they get those numbers up, I think we could see close to 1 million deportations this year. And then we'll see how it goes the next, 3 years after that. And then maybe we'll get J.D. Vance in office and he continues the trend. We'll see. All right. Houston has a problem. Houston has lots of problems. We talk about this a lot on this channel. Teen violence is up 108% in Houston.
Well, since the start of summer, KPRC2 has reported on multiple incidents involving teen violence. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Daniela Guzman.
And I'm Keith Garvin. Overnight in Southwest Houston, an armed 15-year-old was shot by police and is now facing charges. Over in Northwest Harris County, a different 15-year-old was taken into custody for allegedly stabbing two people. KPRC2 reporter Corley Peel shows us about the rising trend in teen violence over the years.
It's always hard to hear when young people are involved in violent crimes, but the Houston Area Urban League says teen violence has gone up significantly over the past several years. Rapid gunfire rings through the night outside apartment complexes on Cinnamon Lane and Beechnut Street. It's where police say two officers feared for their lives as they shot a 15-year-old who was armed with a rifle. HPD says the teen is among a group of people armed with guns firing at officers. No officers were hurt, but the gunfire woke up neighbors like Sherry Martinez.
I was in bed, I was watching a movie, and then out of nowhere, I just started hearing gunshots. But at first I was like, it cannot be. But then it came out consecutive. I was like, yes, that's definitely a gunshot. And I just heard like people running, a guy running. And I'm like, you know what? Let me stay in my bed because I have my kids. So then I was like, oh, my kids. So I had to go and check on them to see if they was fine or, because bullet has no name on it.
Right.
So a bullet is named for everybody. So I had to go make sure that my kids are fine.
Later that day, Harris County Precinct 4 constables took a 15-year-old into custody for allegedly stabbing 2 people. It's unclear if the teen will be charged.
And as we see the teen violence.
This is crazy stuff. 15 years old committing these kinds of acts of violence.
Increase, and we know that it's gone up, 108% over the last 5 years, then we got to respond to that.
Judson Robinson with Houston Area Urban League says teen violence is on the rise.
I encourage you to just plug in, go online, find out what the Urban League does, find out what United Way is doing, find out about Big Brothers and Big Sisters and Fifth Ward in Richmond and the Boys and Girls Clubs.
Robinson stressed where families can find help.
But if they can't get through the team, chances are, they're going to end up in a system that we don't want to see them in.
Martinez says she's keeping extra tabs on her children following Friday's shooting.
It scares me because I have a 15-year-old myself. I have a 15-year-old, I have a 13-year-old, I have a 17-year-old. So, of course, me as a mom, it scares me to find out that there's a 15-year-old with a gun around. It's dangerous.
HPD says the 15-year-old who was shot is expected to be okay and he will face charges. A 20-year-old woman was also arrested in that case. Internal Affairs and the District Attorney's Office will be investigating that case. For information about teen violence and resources, you can find that at click2houston.com. Corley.
Yeah, that. Sorry, one second. That brings me back to my point about Rudy Giuliani.
Governor Abbott signed key pieces of legislation today.
Back to my point about Rudy Giuliani when he was mayor of New York City. He said there's a small amount of people committing a large amount of the crime, a bulk of the crimes. So you have 98 people in Dallas that were arrested who account for 700 crimes. And then a lot of those people, like we just heard in Houston, there's a lot of young people committing crimes. A lot of people that get locked up and commit these violent crimes or theft or whatever are in the late teens, early 20s. So if you can catch this problem early on, then we can get this under control a little bit. But there is a big problem with young people violence. It's crazy. But I'm glad bail reform was signed into law by Governor Abbott. Let's check it out. Some things didn't pass, but some did.
The bail system. It's been a priority all session for Republicans, and the bills passed with overwhelming bipartisan support. Fox 4 Stephen Dial in the newsroom with what the governor said in Houston. Stephen.
Governor Abbott said that this session was a litmus test for lawmakers, saying that they either stood with their citizens in their districts or the criminals who killed them. Voters in November will still need to green light the key part of this bond reform package. Major changes to the bail system were signed into law Tuesday by Governor Abbott. Democrats and Republicans agreed the system was broken and passed a series of bills to change what Abbott called a revolving door.
Not only are we signing laws that correct the wrongs that caused you to suffer, but your efforts have led to a rewriting of the Constitution of the state of Texas to ensure criminals like those who harm your families will never be out on the loose again.
Ultimately, voters will have to give the final approval to one of the key pieces of legislation. That's because the bill language makes changes to the state constitution. The bill would require judges to automatically deny bail for violent crimes like murder, rape, or human trafficking, unless clear evidence shows the accused is not a danger to the community. Another bill would restrict who is eligible for release on cashless personal bonds and allows the state to appeal a bail decision.
If the criminal gets arrested, a dangerous criminal, and gets confined, and then is released back on the streets, and then another vicious crime occurs, that goes beyond a societal problem. That's a governance problem. And what was needed here was a correction of governance to make sure our...
Yeah, I don't know why it was so tough to get this passed. I know they've been trying for a long time to do this, but a lot of Democrats not on board with this.
System was no longer broken, and we would keep these people behind bars.
Most of the bills passed with overwhelming bipartisan support. I spoke to Dallas County State Senator Royce West about the legislation.
Do you think there could be unintended consequences in terms of like overcrowding of jails?
I think there could be, yes, to answer the question. But the fact is that people are tired of being victimized. If someone is out of jail on bond already for a violent offense, or if they've been convicted of a violent offense, the question is, we want to make certain that judges, not magistrates, judges, elected judges, make a decision as to whether or not that person should stay in jail or that person should be able to get a bond.
Senate Joint Resolution 1 failed to reach the governor's desk. That bill would have automatically denied bond in cases involving illegal immigrants. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said that Republicans will continue to work to pass that legislation and hinted he wants Governor Abbott to call a special session. Governor Abbott has not indicated.
All right, there's another news report which touches on those bills that did not pass in the state legislature regarding bail reform, so we'll check that out as well. But yeah, there could be an issue with overcrowding, but the bigger issue is violent criminals getting released back into the streets.
Well, state lawmakers hope their efforts will prevent more violent repeat offenders from getting out of jail. This afternoon, Governor Abbott signed a package of bail reform legislation into law. The reforms were a major priority for the governor, although Democrats blocked two key bills during the last days of the legislative session. Fox 7 Austin's chief political reporter, Rudy Koski, joins us from the newsroom with the details. Rudy.
Hi, Rebecca. Yeah, this signing ceremony took place in Houston this afternoon. The governor selected that location because of several high-profile crimes that were committed in Harris County. With his signature, Governor Greg Abbott completed what was described as a day of reckoning. The four legislative items Abbott signed are a major judicial rewrite involving bail. Among the reform advocates who joined the governor for Tuesday's signing ceremony were several crime victims. People like Amy Castillo. Her brother was killed by a repeat offender who was out on bond.
And as if losing Josh wasn't enough, we were forced to endure even more injustice when we encountered the revolving door at the Harris County Courthouse. This man, charged with a capital murder while out on multiple felony bonds, was offered another bond. How is this possible? How is this justice? There is something deeply tragically wrong with the system that gives repeat violent felony offenders chance after chance, while families like mine are given a life sentence of grief.
SB 9 provides the most substantial reform. The legislation restricts the use of cashless bonds and allows prosecutors to appeal a judge's decision to grant bail. SJR 5 authorizes a public vote on a constitutional amendment. If passed in November, bail could be denied to people charged with violent crimes, especially repeat offenders.
There was a litmus test for every elected member in the Texas Capitol this session. Do they stand for and fight for the citizens in their district or the criminals who kill them? Many passed that test. Some of them failed that test.
The brutal murder of Jocelyn Nugari last year in Houston by two undocumented immigrants was among the cited as justification for bail reform. But during the session, Democrats successfully blocked two bail ban proposals, opposed allowing a public vote on SJR 87.
We know that a few people may have been saved. That's true. Then why not do it for everything? Why not lock up all people accused of crimes indefinitely for fear that they may do something? I guarantee a handful of lives will be saved by doing that too. But at what cost? The cost of our liberty.
Tuesday, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick called out those who blocked the bail proposals that failed.
Voters, they are the ones still letting illegal immigrants who commit violent crimes out and they are still the ones letting people who are citizens of this country.
Abbott and Patrick both promised to bring back the bail reform items that failed during the session, but they did not fully commit
Yeah, we'll
to
see if
calling
there
for
will
a
be
special
a
session.
session called now that the 89th legislative session is over with, but this is long overdue. I think all of these should have been passed. The ones for illegals and everything should be passed. So hopefully they will call a session like I said, but in November, we have a job to do here in Texas. This needs to pass 90-10. Of course, there are going to be some idiots who don't want this to pass, this constitutional amendment here in the state, I should say, on bail reform, but I don't see any problem. I think the majority of people, I'd say 90% would care about this, want public safety, and don't want violent criminals back into the streets. Of course, we have those people who will say things like, oh my gosh, this is going to target brown and black people. I mean, it just, you're going to have those people that say those things like that. Just ridiculous. Someone is making money off getting the illegals over here, in my opinion. Why else would they stop it? Yeah, that's a good point. Why would they stop it? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But you make a good point right there. All right, now, Texas has a big problem. Texas has a huge problem with teachers sleeping with students. I don't know if anybody's realized. To me, this doesn't get enough attention. I see a lot of the reports coming in on Texas scorecard, but it's like almost every day there's something new coming up with teachers having sex with students in high school. Let's check it out. I'll show you one report, and then we'll take a look at the long list of problems here.
A former Southwest ISD substitute teacher is behind bars. Christopher Uresti is accused of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old. KENS 5's Ronnie Accor breaks down those disturbing details.
The victim attends Scobie Middle School. According to court documents, she met Uresti when she was just an elementary schooler. Despite trying to fight back, court documents claim she was sexually assaulted 3 separate times. Between February and March, Uresti picked up the 12-year-old at 2 a.m.
Sure, that guy looks like he's 12 years old himself.
Near Fisher's gas station. He forced her to perform sexual acts. She attempted to run away and did succeed. According to court documents, the second time, Uresti threatened to knock on her door at 1 a.m. if she didn't come outside. Taking her to the same place, he forced her once again to perform sexual acts. She was able to kick him in.
West Virginia is in the house, everybody. Say hello to Miss Regina from West Virginia Wire. Let's play this back so she can get caught up on this problem we have in Texas.
To court documents, the second time, Uresti threatened to knock on her door at 1 a.m. if she didn't come outside. Taking her to the same place, he forced her once again to perform sexual acts. She was able to kick him in the face and run away. The third time, he forced her to do sexual acts and dropped her off at home. The victim told a teacher what happened in May. Uresti was a substitute teacher in Southwest ISD until October 2024, when he was forced to resign because an investigation found he had students' phone numbers and sent them inappropriate messages. After that, Uresti continued to attend school events, even picking up students. Some with parents' permission, others complained to the principal. Southwest ISD wrote in a statement referencing the October investigation when he resigned, saying in part,
What a creep. What a creep. Let's see, hold on. Cedar Creek had a teacher get caught messing with students as well. What a creepy guy. Picking up students, having their phone numbers, text messaging them. Yeah, good for her for fighting back, kicking that guy in the face. But that's crazy. 3 separate times. I mean, he must be threatening her or something for her to, come outside 1 a.m., 2 a.m. But man, I have a story about teachers and students after this, so bear with me.
part quote, at the conclusion of our review, no credible evidence of sexual misconduct was found at that time. The recent allegations of sexual assault surfaced after Mr. Uresti was no longer employed with the district. These allegations are deeply troubling, and we are fully cooperating with law enforcement as they conduct their investigation. Uresti faces charges of aggravated sexual assault of a child. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you the latest. From the far west side, I'm Rania Kaur, KENS 5.
That's hugely disturbing. Very disturbing. Here's another story before I get to the one I have. Winsboro ISD teacher coach arrested for sex with student. 30-year-old man. He looks like he's about 42. I guess that's what pedophilia does to you. A teacher and coach in Winsboro Independent School District was jailed for having sex with a high school student. Nicholas Tyrone Gabriel, 30 years old, was arrested Thursday and charged with improper relationship between educator and student, a second-degree felony punishable by up to 2 to 20 years in prison. Gabriel was a football coach, assistant boys basketball coach, and a teacher at Winsboro High School during the 2024-2025 school year. The Wood County Sheriff's Office stated Thursday that they had received information from community members accusing Gabriel of having sex with a student. Man. Investigators found evidence of sexual intercourse between Gabriel and a high school senior and obtained a warrant for the teacher's arrest. Officers located him in his home of Ennis, where he was taken into custody. Authorities said he admitted to the sexual misconduct. He was booked into Ellis County Jail on June 5th and is being held on a total bond of $53,000 for the felony charge and 5 Class C misdemeanor traffic offenses. Okay. After Gabriel was jailed, the district released a statement indicating that a former employee had been arrested and that the individual had previously resigned from Winsboro ISD prior to these accusations coming to light. He is no longer an employee of the district and is no longer associated with Winsboro ISD in any capacity, the statement read. As of Friday, June 6th, do you remember June 6, 2006? Everybody was saying the world was going to end. That was crazy. We're still here 19 years later. As of Friday, June 6, Gabriel was still listed in the district's online staff roster. State records show that Gabriel does not hold a Texas teaching certificate. Interesting. Before becoming a coach, the pedophile was a varsity football player at Ennis High School and team captain in his senior year. The pedophile graduated in 2014, then played football at Midwestern State University, where he majored in criminal justice. Look at the irony of that. Hundreds of Texas teachers, coaches, and school employees have been accused of sex crimes involving students and other children in just the past few years. Looks like sorry. Looks like his album flopped, so he became a teacher. That's pretty funny right there. All right, so there have been thousands of cases here in the state. What is going on in my state? This is embarrassing. This is the most embarrassing thing here in the state of Texas. Look at all of this nonsense. Educator misconduct. A map of educators arrested for sex crimes. Look at this map. It is all over the state. I can go all the way down the line. This tells you the number 2. It is long. And that's just over the past few years. Regina. What happened, Kitty? Okay, so let me pause. Let me respond to this comment real quick. Okay, so you can watch later. Well, we have a problem here in Texas. As we want to go back a little bit, the problem with teachers sleeping with students in Texas. This guy the state has hundreds or thousands of cases like this, and you can go to the Texas scorecard, and you can see. Watch this. Oops, let me go to this tab. Oops. Okay, that was a minor error right there, but see if I can pull it up here for you. All right, so here we go. I mean, look at this. Former North Texas pastor and school volunteer jailed on child porn charges. Here's a story about the pervert out of San Antonio. Looks like he's about 12 himself, like I said. Little Elm ISD custodian jailed for abusing elementary student. Prosper ISD JROTC teacher in charge with sex crime against student. Former Stockdale ISD teacher indicted for student sex crimes and cover-up. Former East Texas principal indicted on child porn charges. Here's a woman here. Comal ISD dance teacher resigns over alleged misconduct with student. Yes, Texas Scorecard give me a sponsorship. You guys need to pay me for all the publicity I give you. So I need a contract with Texas Scorecard. I need $10 million. All right. This is too much and was worse. They're never truly held accountable. And then when you've got students that launch false allegations, sometimes it's a circle. I say homeschool. Okay. Homeschooling, yes, is an option because they have a lot of perverts in the Texas school system. I will tell you stories I know about personally when I was in high school. I will tell you first about I was willing to reach out to Texas Scorecard, but I'm not sure if they will agree to 10 million. We can lower. I'll start. You know what? I will start off with the Texas Scorecard for give me $2,000 a month. We can negotiate that, but let's start at $2,000 a month because I give you guys a lot of publicity here. Then maybe we can work our way up to 10 million. Okay, let me go with the story. Sorry. All right, so there was a coach, a football coach / teacher, and I heard he had girls sitting on his lap during class. You know, that was only one story, but the main story I'm talking about is, two stories. Goodness gracious, I have two more. So there was a coach. I'm not going to say his name or where this happened, but he was a basketball coach. He was a junior varsity coach and a math teacher, and his wife was a teacher as well at the school. He had a baby with the student. Now, I believe she was 18, so he just got suspended for 2 weeks. But he had 2 kids with his wife, and then he had a baby with the student. And I noticed he was walking down the hall with the thing in his arm, with holding the baby. What is that called? My mind went blank. But anyway, the car seat. And he was walking down the hall, and people were walking up to him, congratulating him. And I said, "No, that's your new baby." He said, "Yeah." But then I found out it was with the student, and the wife still stayed with him. And I remember I was at a graduation ceremony with a friend of mine and his family, and the coach's wife was there, and there was a guy who was extremely upset. He was going off on the wife, and she had her husband on the phone saying, "Yeah, so-and-so is here." And the guy was saying, "He knows where I live. He can come see me." And I think that was the father of the student he had a baby with. I think the girl's dad saw the wife of the coach, if you're following me, and was making threats and all kinds of things because he was pissed. I mean, what father wouldn't be pissed? Your 18-year-old daughter has a baby by this basketball coach. He was a tall guy, light-skinned, good-looking guy. Some of the ladies liked him. The girls liked him. Yeah, basketball coach married. Let me read the comments here. Basketball coach married, had 2 kids with wife and 1 baby with the student. Yes, and the fact it made it much worse that his wife was a teacher at the school. Any father go after him, like, yeah, it's bad. The wife was a teacher, and she stayed with him. A lot of people were wondering why she stayed with this guy. It was a big scandal, and he got suspended for like 2 weeks. It's just crazy. And there was another teacher I had. He was a history teacher. Yeah. Crazy stuff. I won't say his name either, but this guy was a history teacher. He was a white guy. He had long hair. Girls liked him. And he stole another guy's he stole another teacher. Now, this is not a minor incident, but I'll get to that in a second. But he stole another guy's wife, not his wife, but another teacher was dating a woman, and this teacher I'm talking about stole her from him. So they had a beef going on inside the school. It was a big deal, and everybody made fun of him. He used to write people up and send them out of class if you said anything about Mr. I'm going to call him Mr. Longhair. So, Mr. Longhair took your girl. He would get mad and write people up and send them out of class. But Mr. Longhair, I saw him at a party one time. It was after his senior year. This guy showed up it was a backyard. This guy showed up, and he showed up with a student. I was like, what the heck? And she was 18, but he comes back there drinking with us. Yeah, I was drinking underage. Whatever. That was a long time ago. And he goes, yeah, I said, Mr. Longhair, what are you doing here? He's like, you know what? I feel like I'm one of you guys, so I'm coming to hang out. I'm 35 years old, but I feel like I'm 18. And next thing you know, I look over, he's taking body shots off of this girl's stomach. And then his wife divorced him. He had 3 kids. He had a beautiful Costa Rican wife, 3 beautiful kids. And next thing you know, this guy was divorced. And now I see why, because who knows how many students he was messing around with, and how many women he took from other teachers, and how many times he cheated on his wife. So I don't know what happened to him. That was a long time ago, but this guy, now that I think about it, he may have had some improper relations with other students as well. I don't know for sure, but the impression I got from him at that party was there was a lot more than what we saw in the classroom. Let me read the comments here. I had a principal who took his school issue laptop for repairs, and they found porn. He tried to blame it on his son that was 16, 18 at the time. Of course, it was the dad doing that. I mean, I feel like the wife had to have known his tendencies, discussing they were both working at the school. Yeah, so well, this Mr. Longhair, I'm calling him, his wife didn't work at this school, but I remember seeing pictures of her. I remember seeing her at the school. She came up there to have lunch with him sometimes. She was very beautiful, Costa Rican woman. I don't know why he ruined such a great thing that he had, but he wanted to have fun. He wanted to take body shots off of women, half of it, 18, 35. I mean, she's legal, but she was still a student at one point, and who knows how long before he was messing with her. A wife knows. I'm reading the comments for those of you who are watching on X. I'm reading the comments on YouTube. A wife knows. I'm telling you, even Jackie Kennedy, her husband tendencies, and she felt bad for the women. Yeah. Oh yeah, the women, you can only get away with stuff for so long before they find out. But I just don't know what the deal is here in the state of Texas. Why are there so many perverted teachers in my state? Can anybody answer this question for me? I know it's a big state. We have 31 million people here, but I'm seeing this far too often on Texas Scorecard. It's like I said, it's almost daily or weekly. You're seeing about 2 or 3 stories like this happening. It's great. We cannot. Okay, nobody cancels that. I would give anybody 10. No, I'm not. Just joking. Maybe when Texas Scorecard starts paying me, I'll be able to, be a grand prize for the answer. We can find the answer to this. But that is all I have for you today. I really wanted to share this. Blame on this Department of Education for the state. For them. Yeah. Trying to centralize everything. They should get rid of the Department of Education. Texas is a melting pot. Too many people move here, so we have to carry the baggage. Yes, we have. It is a second largest state, but second largest state after Alaska. Alaska doesn't have that many people, but the second largest state as far as population after California. California is at about 40 million, and about 20 million of those are illegal aliens. And Texas has 31 million people here. I'm just going to say they'll probably start with a little affiliate link. However, many traffic and subscriptions you can get for Texas Scorecard, they'll pay you that way. Yes, Texas Score. What I'll promote them even more. I'll promote them a lot more after we make a deal. So if anyone's watching this from Texas Scorecard, let's talk. But that's a good point. Texas is a massive state, melting pot, and so we're going to take in on a lot of baggage. Oh, interesting. We didn't have an issue with this until they let a lot of the Cali people move here. Okay. All right. So I have something to say about the California thing. There are a couple of sides to this. Yes, I'm looking at my time here. Californians move here in droves, but I don't want to blame them for everything or a lot of the problems that we have in the state. Some of the problems are homegrown. The one thing I will say about Californians coming here is that they have not turned the state blue. But hold on. Does he know? What? I'll get to that in a second. But yeah. So the Californians have not turned our state blue. If you look at the last election, Trump won by 14%. Trump won by 14%. And Governor Abbott won by about 11%. So I cannot really, if you look at the data, I can't say that Californians have turned the state blue like we thought they would. Look, I'm originally from California myself, but I moved here a long time ago. I'm a Texan now. So yeah, but I think there is a problem. I mean, some of them, yes, but I do think the majority of them do vote conservatively, and then you have a lot of homegrown problems here as well. So I think it's a combination of people coming from other states, and then you have just a homegrown problem. I think there's a deeper issue we need to look at with these teachers. Maybe the backgrounds. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but there is a big problem with these people going to the schools and sleeping with students. It could just be a melting pot issue. I don't know. West Virginia, do you guys have this problem in your state? Do you see a lot of people, a lot of teachers messing around with students? And anybody else, I don't know where you live, but I want to know if this is a problem, a big problem in other states. Mixed texting means in texting. I don't know what you meant by that. Mixed texting means in texting. Okay. New York has it bad, I think. Oh, yeah. I did see some stuff out of New York. Yeah, New York may have some problems. You're right. I did see New York with some problems with this. So it could just be a nationwide thing. It could be a heavily populated state issue. New York has 20 million people, 8 million people in New York City, 8.6 million people. I'm sure California has this problem too. So it's just a pedophile problem. We have a lot of pedophiles trying to get into these schools and mess around with these students, and it has to stop. But I see it a lot here in Texas, because this is where I live, so I'm paying attention to what's going on here. But I want to know if maybe other places like smaller states like Arkansas, Oklahoma, West Virginia, if you guys have these problems as well. But I'm going to leave that right there. I have to get going. Have some things to do today. But it was a good. Thank you all those who tuned in. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody on the X platform, YouTube platform. I appreciate you. I appreciate the comments. Like and subscribe to my channel and subscribe to West Virginia Wire. She's putting out some great content. And let's get her to 10 million subs if we can. I know she would love that. But I appreciate everybody, and I will leave that there. Follow me on the X platform. Get your Ultra Texan, those Texans out there, Ultra Texan shirt, premium shirts, great quality, mixedtexanstore.com. You guys have a great Saturday, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you. Take care.